will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. Grasshoppers, greetings. I am Dustin, and joining me today on the Formless podcast, episode number 83, is my good friend, 5-time Joe.
5 times, because this is the 5th time I've been on this podcast.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. Holy mackerel. Man. How are you doing this morning?
Good. Just had a good session with you teaching, and happy it's Saturday.
Absolutely.
And looking forward to being on your podcast and talking about something very, very near and dear, practically in my DNA.
It is in your DNA.
It's utterly in my DNA.
That is awesome. So we had Veterans Day last week, and in honor of Veterans Day, we got our resident veteran.
Well, there's
a few resident veterans, but Joe was the first in my mind when I wanted a veteran guest, other than Tyler, who's out of town right now. I thought Joe would be a good one to talk about, and we've touched on it before in the past, and I thought this would be a good time to let you dive a little deeper into that. So,
sure.
If you want to start from the beginning, you said earlier that it was in your DNA. So why don't you start from there? Why is the military in your DNA?
It's a family tradition. My cousin Michael did the family history for the Llewellyn family. We came over around 1650, and if I go back to my 6th great-grandfather, Daniel Llewellyn, he was a militia member before the Revolutionary War and the French and Indian War. Paperwork refers to him as Captain Llewellyn.
Oh, wow.
His son, my 5th great-grandfather, Andrew Llewellyn, served in the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War, and it was he who moved us out of Virginia to the west side of Tennessee, and he's also, based on census, he's the one who changed the spelling from the old country spelling, which I can't do off the top of my head. There's a bunch of L's, there's a Y in there, to the Americanized Lewallen, Llewellyn. And even though it looks like Lee Wallen, but it's pronounced Llewellyn, just like the Welch.
Okay.
I've been on sort of, tangentially on some Doctor Who podcasts out of the UK, and they always have trouble. And then someone says, it's just like the Welch. It's just how the Welch pronounce it, but it's just an Americanized spelling. Anyway, so there's the name.
That's cool.
And then going through, I think the Llewellyns, their part of Tennessee was very much pro-Union, so they were not involved in the Civil War because it was a border state. Mm-hmm. And then I'm not sure about World War I because I think just of the age of my great-grandfather. But my grandfather, William E. Llewellyn Sr., he was 35. He joined up, even though he had 2 kids. Wow. He joined up. He served in the Ordnance Corps, which is what deals with bombs and bullets. And he landed on D-Day 2 days after the initial invasion, so D-Day plus 2.
Okay.
And he spent the entire war in Europe. He was up to Master Sergeant. They kept trying to make him an officer. He wouldn't do it until after the war because he wanted to stay with his people. And then, but he was a lieutenant. Very, very not elderly, but
senior lieutenant,
senior in age lieutenant after the war, and then he got out because that's sort of the Llewellyn style. Is we're not lifers, we're not people who join up as a career. We just fight when we need to. Mm-hmm. And then my biological dad, he did his army time between Korea and Vietnam. And so he was over in Germany, West Germany at the time. Wow. And then he was also, I think he has finished his career in the Georgia National Guard. And then he got out. He did his time and got out. My stepfather, the guy who actually raised me, he was a lifer. He was a career soldier, and he served in Vietnam with the 1st Air Cav. So he was involved. If you've seen We Were Soldiers,
Yeah.
There's 2 battles. There's one battle, and then 2 days later, after that, there's another battle. He was involved with the 2nd battle.
Wow.
And then my nephew Connor, for my youngest sister, he's a lifer. He's been in. He graduated basic in 2015, so he's been in 9 years, and he's another lifer.
Wow. And how long were you in the service?
I was in 36 years from May of 1987, and then my last day in uniform officially was May of 2023, so 36 years. 36 years.
Wow.
Which is insane. In the Army, you have stripes up your sleeve of your blue uniform, and I have like 12 of them,
Is that for every year?
Every 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Every 3 years. So I have, 12 times 3, 36.
6, yeah.
My joke is everything after 7 is a cry for help. But I stayed in because it was a lot of fun. I joined because I wanted to do something different and fun, and it stayed that way for almost 4 decades. And I had a lot of support from Tish.
Yeah.
And I'll get why I got out and why I retired, because we're going to kind of go chronologically through my career.
Okay.
Little anecdotes.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
That's funny. I have a really good friend that I grew up with, and his family history, they can go back, and according to him, somebody in his family has fought in every battle in the United States, from the beginning of the United States.
Yeah.
From the Revolutionary War all the way up until his generation. None of the kids, I think he has a couple of cousins that joined up in the military, but his brothers and him, they never joined. But
my kids are too young.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. That's really interesting, though. I'm not. That's the first time I've heard that from you, and I've known you for a number of years now. So when did you get started, and was it something that you felt like this is something I have to do, or this is tradition and I'm following in Dad's footsteps and uncles and grandfathers and stuff?
Well, I was 20, so I didn't go in right out of high school. I was sitting at my mom's kitchen table. We had I was looking for a roommate because I'd kicked my roommate out because he was a drug user, and I'm not putting up with that. And so I was having trouble making my $125 a month rent.
Do you know who I'd murder for that?
The rent money, or
the rent money.
Yeah, and I was also making like $3.35 an hour, so it's a different time.
It balanced out.
Yeah, in the old days. I grew up on Army bases. My stepdad, Ed Jones, I grew up on Army bases. I just never, having lived that life as a kid, it was an option, but not one I really wanted to do. I felt a great need to, but one of the guys I worked with, his brother was in the local National Guard unit, and we were just sitting at the table. I was just looking for a roommate, and there was a little ad there, a little couple-line ad in the classifieds: earn extra money, talk to a National Guard recruiter. I was Staff Sergeant Lorenz. Eva Lorenz was my recruiter. Easiest money she ever made. First I had to find the armory, and this is before GPS,
before Google,
smartphones, any of that stuff. I'm old, folks. I'm 57, almost 58. So, but I call her. And South Street in Reading breaks up. It's not one continuous.
That's
it.
Founding fathers of our town were drunks, I think.
I think so. And so I kept trying to find the address, 1025 South Street, which is the Reading Armory, and I couldn't find it. So I called her on the phone. She gave me the directions: drive up Placer, turn right or turn left here. I found that, and I just talked, and it was easy peasy. I was working as a cook. They asked me if I wanted to go in the mess section. I said no, I want to do something different. They said bridge engineer. I said that's fine. I had no idea what that was. I had absolutely no idea what it was, but it sounded good to me. extra money. And
so with that, you were able to avoid having to get a roommate?
yeah, I ended up, I managed to, now I didn't get another roommate, and I kind of moved back in with the folks for a little bit, I think, before I shipped to Basic, because I kind of cleared out my apartment, put my stuff in storage, parked my car at Dad's house, because it needed some work on it anyway, so part of my money I made from Basic training went to put a new transmission in my 78 Ford Fiesta, my second car.
Nice.
Yeah. And I shipped to Basic, and I came back, and I lived with the folks for a little bit, and I got out as quickly as I could. I get along great with my stepdad now. I mean, we get along fine. I mean, but it was a whole nother story almost 40 years ago.
40 years ago, yeah. So how much were you making when you signed up?
And it's like 1 week in a month.
Yeah.
But for just the basic training, it was like $625 a month. It was funny, and the drill was, I think, about $90 a month. When my stepdad enlisted in the Army back in the late 50s, his monthly pay was less than that for
the month
for an active duty.
Wow.
And they don't do it these days for good reasons, but my stepdad, I heard this story many times from him, so I have no reason to disbelieve him. But because of his inability to drive the speed limit and his lead foot and vehicular shenanigans, is one of those things. You can go to jail or you can go join the military. Join the military. So that's why Pops joined the military back in the late 50s. So and it's just
pay the piper one way or the other.
Yeah. Just for me, it was something fun to do and a little bit of extra money. That was my initial goal. And if you had told me then, oh, by the way, you would, be doing this for the next 36 years, and everything that was good in your life after that point would come from knowing people in the Army, I would have been, really? Are you high? So,
So was Basic all it was cracked up to be?
There were more than a few times when I thought I made a very, very bad mistake. And I look back on it now and I kind of laugh at it. It wasn't that bad. You just have to do what they tell you and stay out of trouble. And there is a progression and understand initial training these days is considerably different than it is. So don't think whatever I say how it was is how it's going to be now. I think certain things are always eternal, but definitely things do change. But it's just, when they just yell and they're down on everybody and they scream at you. And, I was raised by my stepdad. There was nothing they told me, nothing
that you hadn't experienced before
that wasn't new to me. It's hard as 20 days. Oh, they hate my guts. They're gonna kill me. And they didn't. It's an act.
Yeah.
It's an act. But I mean, to this day, I remember their names: Sergeant First Class Tennecore, Staff Sergeant Wolette, Staff Sergeant Hamilton, who grabbed me by the neck and slammed me into a wall one time. I forget why. And then for our squad, the bridge guys, it was Staff Sergeant Walker. Shout out to Staff Sergeant Walker, wherever you are. You're awesome.
Awesome. So how long were you in the military? How long were you in
Basic?
Well, not Basic, because Basic's like, what, 6 weeks, 16 weeks, something like that?
I did something. Tyler talked about splitting his up because he did it between his junior and
senior year
in high school. I did it all at one shot, one station unit training, OSAT. And it was essentially 8 weeks of basic soldiering stuff and 6 weeks of engineering stuff. But because it was with the same unit, the same drill sergeants, Alpha 35th, Alpha 35th was the company. I think Tyler also went to Alpha 35th when he went in.
Oh, okay.
So I've talked to a lot of guys. It's a small army. It's a small guard, really, especially engineers. So I've talked to a lot of guys who went to Alpha 35th. Not with the same drill sergeants because they rotate in and out and everything like that. But it was those 14 weeks plus a couple of weeks of what we call 0 week, where you're just there waiting for everyone else to show up, and they have you do KP. They were cleaning out one of the buildings, so I got to move furniture. Basically, you're free labor.
Okay. And then, so how long were you in the military before you did something? Like, they shipped you somewhere.
Well, I joined in May of '87. That's when I enlisted. May the 4th. Yeah, May 4th. May the 4th be with you.
That's how you remember it?
That's how I remember it. May 4th. And 5/4/87. And I did 2 drills with the local unit. And when I didn't have uniforms, I didn't have a job. I was just a guy. They do things different. They don't throw people like that in with the regular unit anymore. They have a whole, it's called Warrior RSP. I forget the name of the acronym or what it means, but it basically means they have their own separate drill days. These are people who haven't shipped yet. They have NCOs. They're kind of running them, getting them some uniforms, getting them kind of used to the military mindset, kind of like prep work before you actually go. But I did 2 drills, and I made the rookie mistake. Hey, what can I do? Because my dad didn't. He instilled a work ethic in me, and you don't just stand around if there's work to be done.
Waiting for something to do, yeah.
So I got to clean immersion heaters. Immersion heaters are these gas-fueled heaters that you clamp into a 50-gallon garbage can. You fill up the garbage can full of water, and it heats the water. You use it to wash dishes and stuff like that. And they get very sooty. So I went out back where the 911 center is now, and there's a bunch of sand. I used sand to scrub these immersion heaters and got completely, covered with gunk. I forget why I did the second one, but it wasn't that memorable. And then I shipped.
So, but it was a lot of just like, here, move this here, clean that, do.
Yeah. When you're junior enlisted, you are,
grunt labor.
Clean the bathroom, do the KP, kitchen police, wash dishes, that sort of thing. It's just, it's like someone has to do it, and the higher ranking people already did it when they were lower ranking. So
paying your dues.
Pay your dues.
Right on. So you did that for a while.
Yeah.
And were you happy to do that, or were you thinking like, oh, why did I sign up for this?
No. I worked when I was in high school. After high school class was over, I went and worked to help feed the family.
Okay. So work wasn't something you were afraid of.
No. It was like, it's work is life. It's what you do, and it's no offense to any other generation. I'm Generation X. We have that's one of the things we're known for: crankiness and work ethic.
Yeah.
And I'm classic Gen X.
I agree. So, what was your first deployment where you did something?
Okay, well, it took a moment. So I came back. I got off the plane, and 2 days later I had drill. So I was so used to drill sergeants, and then I show up to drill, and I'm like, very, very precise,
on the mark. Everything's all dialed in.
Yes, sergeant. No, sergeant. Very, and there's like, settle down. Relax.
It's okay, Ruck.
It's okay. And then if I goofed up, I was like terrified. And then it was bless him, Roger. Staff Sergeant Roger Schreiber, great guy. It's okay. It's okay, Llewellyn. It's okay. Just reassuring me so I'm not freaking out. First row back, we drove out to Whiskey Town, and we took at the time we went down to Brandy Creek, so we took our trucks out over the dam and down, and we did some bridging. So I did this and everything like that. And I rode back, and this was 1987. Different times they were driving back, and it was like 3 people in M800 series 5-ton truck, which is a 5-speed high-low stick shift truck, diesel truck, and it had the bridge bay on the back, which is about 6 tons of floating roadway. And then the 2 guys in the vehicle start passing a bowl back and forth, and not a bowl of cereal. And because I'm very tall, I was on the outside. I didn't have to sit in the middle. The shorter guy went in there. No names. Disclaimer. I'll come back to the story. Everything I say is not the opinion or the official policy of the Department of the Army, the California Department of Military Affairs, California Army National Guard of the United States Army. I will not name names to protect the guilty and change the names to protect the innocent.
There you go.
Anyway, so these 2 guys are doing that, and I passed, of course, not my scene at all. And that was the guard in the 80s. There was a fair amount of drinking involved. Jumping ahead, the guard grew up with Desert Storm. Desert Storm exposed some problems with the guard that they rectified, and people like that were gone. And the professionalism and the training and the discipline standards all went to where they're supposed to be, and that made a difference. During the later the global war, the post 9/11 wars.
Yeah, because there was a long lull of not a whole lot of stuff going on before that.
Yeah, for the guard, because the guard was not really involved. Some guard units were involved, very low key in Vietnam, but Johnson and Nixon never called up the guard like they did in Korea, like they did in World War II and World War I, for political reasons. And that's why the guard became a place where you could get away and not go to Vietnam. And that's why guys like my stepdad, had a very low opinion of the guard because of that. I heard from my buddy at work, the guard was basically, it's like Boy Scouts, but with alcohol and guns. and I can't. Now, when it came to doing our mission and doing the bridging, they took a lot of pride in that, and my unit had great times. Times would be how long it took from the first part, the bridge bay drops into the water, and then before the raft was built. I mean, our time smoked. So these guys were
capable.
They were very functional alcoholics, and and obviously they weren't drunk doing that, because those 6-ton of bridge bays clanging together will kill you fast. So they were smart enough to
wait until afterwards
to party hardy. So I did that for a number of years. The first time I really, and because we had the boats, I did, 87. So actually, besides, I think I might have been called up for a flood or 2 before the LA riots, the 92 LA riots.
Okay.
But I wasn't a sergeant yet, so I was just a crew member. So I wasn't, most of the time it was just they needed boat operators, and that was, it was generally a sergeant gig. So the first time I actually got called up to do something off, was the 92 LA Rodney King riots.
Wow. So that was hairy.
That was a bit scary. First time I rode on the C-130 down to Los Angeles, and they gave us like a day of training, and they gave us live ammunition, and then we bust into South Central Los Angeles. We stayed at the LA Coliseum, where the Clippers played, right next to, at the time in 92, it was the LA Raiders.
Yeah.
So right next to where the LA Raiders, we actually did some physical fitness out on their field. Now, my sainted mother, my late mother, was a Raiders fan, so I'm not going to diss Raider fans. There's at least one good one, my mom. But I was a Niner fan at the time, and so whatever. But yeah, so we stayed, slept in the walkway around the seats where the Clippers played. And they'd had the Olympics there, so they had a lot of new stuff there.
Yeah.
The Olympics there. So we were down there. We did like 4 missions where we patrolled, then we guarded this corner where there was a supermarket that got just completely, ransacked. And then there was a Burger King that didn't get ransacked because the owner, because of his franchises, just kept making burgers. Here, I'll give you all my food. Don't burn my place down.
Wow.
And we kind of did that. And then we ended up guarding the Hall of Justice. And this is not where the Super Friends were. I checked. But 70s cartoon, Gen X, the Super Friends, which is Justice League. Yeah. And I think one other thing, I did some guard, and we actually did guard duty outside of where we stayed. And that's about the time where UCLA is nearby, and they were doing their graduation. So we had a bunch of graduates come by and snapping pictures with us and everything like that.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. And
so at what point were you like, was it before you got on the plane where you were like, oh, this is a real thing now. Like, this is serious.
Yeah.
This isn't one weekend a month.
Yeah, I was quite concerned. See, 92. Where was I? I was working at Lorelei. I was concerned, but I was also, I was still junior enlisted specialist Llewellyn, so I just did what my NCOs told me to do. I just kind of put my faith in them. I trusted them, and my unit never engaged with anyone, never had an issue, there wasn't a problem. By the time we got there, things had settled down. I do know some of the guard units that got there earlier, there were some shootings, there were some instances where
things got a little hairy.
A roadblock someone ran through a roadblock and got lit up.
Wow.
So that's...
Yeah, the potential was there for sure.
Yeah, live ammo. And I did think, well, this sucks. I mean, this is the first time I'm carrying live ammo in a war zone. It's an American city.
Yeah.
It's an American city against Americans.
That had to weigh on you a little.
It did. That was again, work ethic. I was like, okay, Llewellyn, you're called up. But the fact that we were down there,
it had to put a cloud over stuff. I'm sure
it did, and all the fires and everything like that. The place stunk.
Yeah,
I mean, literally. Afterwards, this is the one time I've actually ever seen an American president. Bush 41 came down and talked, and we could send 2 people from our squad. Just not everyone, but and I drew high cards, so I got to see Pops Bush. Just basically tell us, good job, guys.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. And so that was 92. At the end of 92, I finally got to sergeant school, something called, at the time, Primary Leadership Development Course in Utah in December, 5,000 feet. It really sucked. It was
Lots
really
of
cold.
snow.
It was really cold. But I graduated, and then by about April, May, somewhere around that time, I got promoted. They backdated it, but I still ended up doing an annual training. In the Guard, you do 1 week in a month and 2 weeks out of the year, annual training, AT. Mm-hmm. My orders hadn't come in yet, but they kind of faked me as a corporal, which is a junior NCO, same pay grade as E4, as specialist. So I wouldn't have to do KP because I was a squad leader at the time.
Oh, okay. You had moved up.
I'd moved up because the guy who should have been the squad leader lost his driver's license because of a DUI, And the rule was if you didn't have a license, you couldn't be in a leadership position because you had to drive boats. You can't drive boats
without a license.
And there was another sergeant who was like, "Hey man, I just want to drive boats. I don't want to actually do any leadership stuff." And these days I was like, "Good, turn in your stripes. Turn, if
you're not going to do the job,
if you're not going to do the job, turn your stripes. We'll give them to someone who will." But this was still part of the good old boy system, the transitioning. So this was in '93.
Things hadn't hit the fan there.
Well, yeah, and our unit didn't get called up for Desert Storm, so those changes hadn't really hit
you
us
guys
yet.
Okay,
but they did. But and then I got promoted to sergeant, and then I was a boat operator, and then fairly quickly I was a squad leader, and which meant I was in charge of 3 boats as an E5, and then '96 got to go to Panama for 2 weeks. This was like a 6-month operation that you would rotate in for 2 weeks. Some people were there for the whole duration. I mean, if they weren't working, you can get on the guard full time for temporary duty. I've done that. And so I went to Panama in '96 for, I'm not going to try and do the Spanish words for it, but New Horizons. Operation New Horizons. They've been doing Nueve Horizons.
What was that?
Well, for us, because we're engineers, we built a bridge, we built a road, and we built schools. Because engineering, it's not just blowing stuff up, but it's construction.
Okay.
And so for us, because of our floating bridge, we used it as a raft, and we would move equipment up the Western River. So Panama, long and skinny. On the west side, and if I'm backwards, I'm backwards. On one side in the south is Panama City. On the upper northern side, on the opposite side of the country, is basically the sticks. No offense, it's the Cottonwood, or actually the Alturas. It's the Alturas of Panama. So
get your map out, folks, if you don't know where that is.
It's really remote.
Yeah.
And so that area, and so it was very undeveloped, and so we would use our rafts to move the bulldozers and stuff up to where they were going to build the bridge, and they would unload, and then we would just, sometimes it might take 2 trips. So we're driving this raft up this very narrow river with 2 very tight 90-degree turns. Here's the raft. It's longer and skinnier. Normally you would have a boat on either side and you can steer it that way.
Yeah. Because
the river is so narrow, you had one boat at the end and the ropes go all the way up front. So it's like driving a Cadillac with a 30-foot hood.
Oh, geez.
So that's what, and they were like, the more seasoned guys were like, I don't want to do that. Llewellyn, you're driving. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Tim. But I did, and I did a pretty good job, and that was a lot of fun. And so that's what we would do. We would drive the equipment up and then chill, because we didn't want to, because you couldn't really go anywhere. You're tied up to this,
Yeah, you have to watch the equipment.
Watch the equipment, and then what we would do is we would unhook, and then we could, because they had torn out the old bridge. So we were up against the side of the river, and then occasionally people would come by. They're moving their pigs, moving their goats, moving whatever, and we'd move our bridge into position, and they could cross the river.
Oh, okay.
And then that's what we would do. And then when the dozers were done at the end of the day, load back up, back down the river, and there you go. And then you had to take a truck ride up to our base camp, and I've lost count of the number of times I risked my life over my career, but that was definitely one of them. Driving that road. Sometimes it went down to 1 lane.
And you're in a 5-ton truck with a trailer and all this stuff.
Well, I was just in the back of is a Deuce and a half, 2.5-ton truck.
Okay.
So I was just riding in the back of the Deuce, and just hoping we don't die, and we didn't.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool. That was probably the last big hurrah of the old bridge unit, because they're starting to transition us to a different type of engineering. But in '97, we went down to Calexico and Mexicali, and we ended up our battalion, which is multiple companies, so the 132nd Engineer Battalion, built 3 miles worth of walls. And I got to learn how to operate a crane.
Oh, cool.
And I was a team member. I was team leader. And so they took this old aluminum aircraft runway they would use in World War II. The CBs, the construction guys would go out into the jungle and put this stuff down for the airplanes to land on. So they had a bunch of this left over. So we would weld a bunch of it together, 3 of them together, and make a wall. And then they used oil pipes as the poles and the cross members of the bridge. So you had to pick this thing up in the wind as a very, as lift it over that, so they would weld it so the wall was facing south.
So the smooth side was
south. So they couldn't use the poles to help climb
Okay.
the cross members to climb over. So I did that. That was 97. One of the best memories about that one is our platoon sergeant, rest in peace, Terry, wasn't exactly the most popular cat on the planet. I think is actually insane. He was a Vietnam vet. He was a former Marine. I kind of look back on him now saying I actually kind of agree with some of the stuff. I didn't agree with him at the time, but having been on the other side of that leadership, okay, now I see what he was trying to do. His people skills were non-existent, but I see what he was trying to do. But because all the sergeants, we didn't really like him. So he was in a tent with the junior enlisted because they couldn't tell him no. And so after we stayed at an armory while we were there. But after we were done, they kind of based us at a naval base, actually the winter place where the Blue Angels hang out.
Oh, okay.
Whatever the name of that place was, I forget. And so we hung out there for a couple of days as they were just winding everything down before we headed home. So we're in these tents that the CBs had put up, but they didn't exactly tack them down. And one of the nights, the winds really, really picked up. And the tent, I was like, holy cow. And I'm looking at this thing. As I'm looking at this thing, the tent takes off like a rocket. And it goes up in the air. And it spins around a couple of times, and it lands on the tent with the junior guys and the platoon sergeant, just like Dorothy's house
in the Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. No one was injured.
Wow.
I was like, it goes up in the air, and I'm screaming, the tent. And it didn't do any good because the
wind was
well, the people inside the tent that it landed on were like, they couldn't see what was going on.
They were
So our Wizard of Oz moment.
Wow.
And then in the 98, they transitioned. They changed our mission. They changed our. We used to be Echo Company 132nd, and then we were Alpha Company 132nd, and we were 12 Bravo combat engineers.
What's the distinction between Echo and Alpha?
It's just numerical.
Okay.
And then they took the battalion, which was 5 companies plus headquarters, down to 3 companies, consolidated some of the companies and then just changed their mission. I wasn't in the planning, so I don't know why they decided to pick us as Alpha, and then Mount Shasta was Bravo, and I forget where Chico or Charlie was. I forget. But so we were now combat engineers. So instead of building bridges, a 12 Bravo does landmines, clears minefields, puts in wire obstacles, concertina wire, barbed wire, clears those explosions. My foster brother called being a 12 Bravo a grunt with a shovel.
Okay.
So, and you're supposed to operate as a fire team and more infantry oriented. And it came for me because a lot of the older guys were like, I'm out of here. And so it allowed me to move up and make staff sergeant.
Gave you a little opportunity.
For advancement. And then I was still a squad leader, but a 12 Bravo squad leader is the E6 position. And so, once you get that, in the Army, it's 3 stripes up, and then a rocker, the curved thing underneath, the rocker, my first rocker. And it really changes how people deal with you. because there's lots of E5s. It's not that hard to make E5. Some people it is, but for most people it's not. But once you make E6, then an E5 is supervising junior soldiers. An E6 is supervising other sergeants. So that's the big distinction.
Okay.
And
so you get some serious responsibilities.
You get a lot of responsibility, a little bit more authority, lots of responsibility. I call it middle management. And afterwards, someone get promoted to staff sergeant, I always tell them, "Hey, welcome to middle management."
Awesome. So in all of that time, you're still living a civilian life.
Yeah.
Most of the year, and then a couple weeks a year, you're doing training, and then whatever there's an issue, they need help, they call you out. Riots, building the wall.
Yeah. Mostly floods. Before the bridges went away, and more importantly, the boats, because the boats were the thing. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of flood missions. In 92, early 92, 93, because I was a sergeant. I think there was Guerneville, Russian River flooded really bad.
Yeah.
So we ended up going down there for a while.
A lot of rescue stuff.
We didn't rescue anyone. I think we rescued. I was hoping to rescue someone. They had reporters there, and so I because I'm young and stupid. I was just say I'm just down here. I would really like to rescue someone, even a cat. We didn't, and that got in the news. So I came home. There's a big poster of a wet cat. Someone had drawn a wet cat in a net. So yeah, be careful what you say.
For sure.
And but ended up when the floods came in, they hit a place where propane tanks were stored. So all these propane tanks were scattered all up and down the river. So we ended up going to get those and pulling them out and floating them down for a pickup. We had some reporters on my boat, and so they took a picture. So the same day that the San Francisco 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys for when Steve Young was quarterback, when they went to the Super Bowl,
yeah,
and I think they beat the Bengals. Anyway, I know that we didn't care who the Super Bowl. We beat the Cowboys. We beat the Cowboys. Back when I cared about such things. I was on. They took some pictures. So the Santa Rosa paper, the Press Democrat, I was on the front page of that one. And for the Record Searchlight here, I was also on the front page with the 49ers.
That's cool.
One of my proudest moments. I still have those
papers
somewhere.
Very cool.
Somewhere in my storage stuff.
You've got a lot listed here. So
yeah. So kind of start. I'm going to skip that one. Okay. So 97. So just learning how to be a 12 Bravo and doing that stuff, and then 9/11 happened. So
that changed everything.
That changed a lot. Yeah. And so after 9/11, I mean, I remember,
I remember, yeah.
If you're old enough, you remember. And my coworkers were like, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know. I'll wait for them to tell me." But in 2002, I got the call saying that we were going to get called up to do Homeland Security. Now, I know some people had volunteered to do like airport security after 9/11, a bunch of my buddies, but I had a job. I didn't need to, and I didn't want to walk away from my job. I just gotten a promotion, and I got the call saying, "Hey, we're going to Utah." So we went. So the Reading Unit Alpha Company, this Mount Shasta Unit Bravo Company went to Utah to guard a couple of bases there that before no one really cared about because it was out in the middle of nowhere. So Tooele, Utah, which is about 35 miles south of Salt Lake City.
Okay. What's there?
Stuff that goes boom.
Okay.
Stuff that goes boom. And it's the Tooele Army Depot. So they have all these bunkers full of stuff. And then further south is the Doug Wade Proving Grounds, where they have stuff that will, that if it gets out, all of a sudden all the sheep are dead.
Okay.
So I counted my blessings. The housing at Dugway was better, but I think for my health and longevity, I'm glad I didn't spend a lot of time at Dugway. Tooele, the place was a dump, but at least it wasn't full of nerve gas and stuff.
Yeah, stuff that
it
makes you die.
It'd still kill you, but it'd kill you quickly. The funny thing about and so we were there for about 10 months, and then each platoon would rotate around and guard the place for 2 weeks. You had like a 6-day cycle. 2 days in the box where you're guarding everything, either roving or the front gate, and you rotate around. And then a day of cleanup, a day of training, 2 days off, rinse and repeat. I was so bored. In that 10-month time period, I drank more during that time period on my time off than I had, to the point where I was starting to get concerned. And I was like, this is bad. So I went home and I grabbed my computer and my Xbox and I Joe, we're going to go to the club. Good.
But yeah, you have fun, boys.
Have fun. I just my liver and
my liver and my morale can't take it.
Yeah, I was drinking too much. But there's something there. I don't know if it's still there or not. The massive ordnance air blast bombs, or the Moab, or the mother of all bombs.
Yeah.
So if you've ever seen Dr. Strangelove, where Slim Pickens is on top of the bomb waving his hat, it was a rite of passage. Everyone went to where these things were, because it was just on railroad cars, and you'd climb over the fence, and you would get on it.
And Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove, and there may be pictures. I think even the commander. I don't know. I didn't hear he actually got on the bomb, but he definitely had a picture taken next to it.
Okay.
So everyone did it. We called Utah Utakistan. Because I don't know who came up with that one, but so yeah, it kind of looked, having been to Afghanistan, yeah, I see it.
There's some similarity there.
There's definitely some geographic similarities. So I did that. I came back. That it was only a few hours, several hours away from home, but Utah had its moments. It was sort of like the training wheels training for me to actually do Army full time, because I was never active duty. So I learned a lot. It was very advantageous. I think our commander at the time did not like me, and I know he was working on exiting me from the Army, because he didn't think I had a good temperament. I had a bad temper or something. I do not know where he got that from. No, I know exactly where I did have a bad temper, unprofessional. And being in Utah, he figured that would be the time where I would definitely step in and he can get rid of me. I did a great job. I kept my cool. I did a really good job. He told me at the end of it, said, "Hey man, you did a good job." So and I don't like the guy, but I learned some stuff from him that I used throughout the rest of my career. So and I see where he was coming from. I do see where he's coming from. He's just anyway.
Difference of opinions.
Yeah, it's different, but he's a commander.
Yeah, he's in charge.
He's in charge. So he's retired. But he made all the way up to colonel. So
wow.
So it's newest stuff, and I learned stuff from him. The big one is always have a plan B, because he would say, okay, we're doing training. He'd come out and supervise, and because this is his job.
Yeah.
And said, okay, what are you doing? Da, 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 da. And then said, okay, what's your plan B if that doesn't work? After a while, I started to come up with a plan B.
You have an answer.
Yeah. So that was good.
That is good. I think there's an important distinction there, because I've just learned this recently. Mm-hmm. This lesson has been a long time coming for me, and it's you may not get along with somebody, you may not even like them, but I'll be darned if there isn't something you can learn.
Yeah.
Still from that, and
absolutely.
that's something that took me just recently in my in my lifetime. It took me a long time to learn, because usually in the past, if I didn't like somebody, forget it. There was nothing of value there, and how wrong I was.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
So, and it was a rough time for me. My mom had passed away in March of '03, and Captain D, the guy I didn't like, was like, as soon as we got the word, she was in the hospital, I called, I was talking to my dad, and he said, it's fine. I said, Dad, do I need to come home? No, it's fine. And then 2 days later, Joe, get home. And as soon as I put the word up, I had my truck at the time, so I was just packing my stuff up, and he'd come by. Why are you still here?
Get out of here! Yeah, you need to go. There's somewhere you need to be.
So he did right by me.
That's cool.
He did absolutely right by me. I was able to go home and see my mom before she slipped into a coma, and then after the funeral, I stayed a little bit, and then I just had to get back to Utah just because otherwise I would have gone nuts.
Yeah.
And I came back, and it was really rough, and my bad temper, got a little bit worse for a while, and I said, look, Joe, we know this is rough for you, but you got to pull it together. And I did, and then I came back and I went right, and I was living with my dad, and that didn't work out too good. And then I went back to work fairly quickly without decompressing, and I had some issues at work.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, in 2004, Kosovo popped up.
Okay.
And then
so for those that don't know the backstory of Kosovo, what was? Give me the
5-cent tour.
Yeah.
Kosovo used to be part of Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia came into existence after, I think, World War I, but definitely after World War II. It was a communist country. It was run by a guy named Tito, and it was a bunch of different areas that have different religious backgrounds. Kosovo is mostly Albanians. Mm-hmm. Kosovo are Albanians, so they're Muslims. They're more Europeanized Muslims. They're not Middle East Muslims. There is a difference. And then you get Serbia, which is Orthodox Christian, and that's another big part of it. And there's a couple other places. And Tito didn't tolerate, as communist dictators go, he wasn't that bad, relatively speaking, but he didn't tolerate stuff, and he didn't mess with Daddy. Uh-huh. And so he kind of kept everything together. Well, he died. He died in the late 80s, and then that's when
things kind of fell apart.
Started to fall apart, and then there's some ethnic cleansing. And so in Bill Clinton's second term, NATO went over, bombed a bunch of places, kind of got the fighting to stop, and then NATO went in there, including the United States, as not peacekeepers but peace enforcers. That's what we were. So Kosovo, I'm trying to think what state it is. It wouldn't be a particularly large state in this country. It'd be like Iowa, maybe. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Look it up. But it's about diamond shaped, and you can find it on a map. If you look at Italy, and Italy looks like a boot, and there's like a little spur. Mm-hmm. You take that spur, you go east, you're gonna get to Kosovo.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we started training up there. It was a Southern California unit that was going over Alpha 578, and they were just looking for bodies to fill in because most guard units are under strength, and when you have to deploy, you just fill in the gaps. That's what we did in Utah. That's what we did for Kosovo. That's what we did for Afghanistan. And so I've been the home team. I've been the fill-in.
Oh, okay.
And there is a difference. So in Utah, I was home team. In Kosovo, I was a fill-in. I was an alternate for a different guy, and then he had also been on the Utah deployment. And he said, I just got back from Utah, so he was able to pass. And then they came to me. I could have passed, but things weren't really awesome at work. So I said, maybe I need to leave. Maybe I need to get out of town for a bit. Hope no one there at work sees this. Anyway, because I still work there. I still work that civilian job. But anyway, water under the bridge, y'all.
Yeah.
So I went over there. I was supposed to actually be part of one group, but I heard some bad things about the people in charge, and people like, better, grow eyes in the back of your head.
Yeah.
And I said, well, most of the guys from the Reading unit were going to this line unit, and I said, hey, here, I got security clearance. I got, staff sergeant, and they took me on. I was supposed to work in the office in the headquarters platoon, but in doing the train up, the 3rd platoon, and the way they had kind of, they 1st and 2nd platoon, no offense to anyone, Tyler was in 1st platoon. Those were the more squared away. 3rd platoon was bad news bears.
Okay.
So it was kind of like maybe the people no one wanted when they were picking your teams.
Gotcha.
So and then 3rd platoon. The 3rd platoon sergeant and one of the squad leaders were doing the combatives, which is the wrestling, and they were just getting into jiu-jitsu, but more so when I went to Afghanistan, where Brazilian type jiu-jitsu was more of a thing. Anyway, the platoon sergeant got his leg broken by one of the squad leaders.
Wow.
And because all the squad leaders were E5s, they didn't want to make one of those guys the platoon sergeant, so they got me.
They voluntold you?
They voluntold me to do it. And they lied to me, and they said that, hey, this is your job, while I'm going to say the guy, drawing a blank on his name, I think it's Taurus, I could be wrong, was back home healing up his leg and drinking beer. I got the platoon through the train up through Fort Lewis, Washington, over to Germany, where it's like freaking cold, like below zero cold. It really, really sucked. I got the platoon through that, got them into Kosovo, got it started. And then as soon as he showed up, I got fired from the platoon sergeant gig. And me and the platoon leader were knocking heads. So it was not the best relationship. And they threw me back into the headquarters platoon, which was fine. I was fine. Oh, thank God.
Fine with that.
Thank God. The funniest thing is like an hour after I handed the platoon over to the old platoon sergeant, the new platoon sergeant. We were going to have a visit from the sergeant major of the Army, who's the senior sergeant for the entire Army. So they were just making sure all their stuff, they were practicing and everything like that.
All their I's were dotted and T's were crossed.
Yeah, and they were practicing a clearing drill, and they had a negligent discharge where a round goes off when it's not supposed to. It didn't hit anybody, and I ordered an Alienware computer, so I just got it. So I handed it over, and I was in the morale place where the Wi-Fi or the internet was, so I could play with my new toy. And I heard the shot, and I didn't hear anyone scream. No one was yelling medic. I just stayed there. I said, "Holy cow!" And then they filled me in later.
Put your head down and just.
So I dodged that bullet.
Literally and figuratively.
But that's where and just like Utah was kind of the training wheels, Kosovo was a good mission to learn more about working with other people, not people I'm super familiar with. So every deployment I had got me ready for the next one. So and I made some good friends, and that's where I got to know Tyler. Okay,
so you met Tyler in Kosovo.
Met him before. I think I probably met him before I met his mom when he was coming in, but he was just, who the hell is this guy? This is like one of those kids who comes in and everything like that. I was a staff sergeant, so I wasn't in charge of Tyler. I think I knew who he was.
Okay.
I just knew he was one of those split up guys. And then we had like an open house, and there's a lady there, obviously. She's obviously a parent. And, you've seen me come up to introduce myself to people. I'm always a very welcoming guy. I did the same. Oh, hi, I'm Joe Llewellyn. Oh, I'm Annette Pocup. I'm Tyler's mom. Oh, Tyler Pocup's mom. Oh, hi, nice to meet you, everything like that. And I gave her my number, said, hey, if you need anything, you let me know. And, but yeah, and I won't get into the details. Tyler's heard it enough. He's tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
But I got him on that mission. Otherwise, he would have gone to Iraq.
Oh.
So I got him onto that mission. And And so,
those were his two options. He was going to Iraq or Kosovo.
Yeah, because he'd just come back from his AIT, his Advanced Individual Training.
Oh, okay.
And at that point, we're talking 2004.
So things were hairy.
Things were happening.
Yeah.
So, but I got him on, and we still had some slots to fill for the Kosovo mission. And so I got him on that. I had to be the go-between between the Reading unit and the Alpha Company command team, but I got it done.
So I want to back up just a hair.
Sure.
But we are at an hour, so if there's something you need to do after or okay.
You tell me when to cut it off.
Okay. What's the distinction? You said peacekeeping or peace enforcing. What is the distinction between that? Tyler told me a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But the significance of that seemed there seems to be a distinction there.
I am not 100% sure. I think peacekeeping could be where we're keeping a particular population from rising up, or they've been beat, like maybe Germany or Japan after World War II, and there's occupation.
Okay.
We're not really occupying the place. We weren't in charge. There was a provisional government in Kosovo at the time. They weren't their own country.
Oh, okay.
They're still part of whatever blob was left of Yugoslavia. As a matter of fact, they were very careful, the boundary line between Kosovo, because we were on it. Our unit, our task force was on the furthest east for the American task force. We were furthest east, and so our job was to patrol that international boundary line between Serbia proper and Kosovo.
Oh, okay.
So we were just basically keeping the two factions from killing each other.
Okay.
So we weren't running things.
But you're just like,
yeah,
you stay on your side of the line, and you stay on your side of the line, and everybody will be happy.
And everyone respected us, and the Albanians loved us. Serbians not so much. I would eat at an Albanian restaurant. I would not necessarily eat at a Serbian restaurant.
Okay.
But and one time, once I was back in the office, I was kind of my night off, because you had work 6 days, one night off. On my night off, and what are you going to do in Kosovo? What are you going to do? I wasn't married. I hadn't met Tish yet. So I wasn't married, but there's maybe about 4 women on the American women on the entire base. They were all 10 plus years younger than me.
Prospects are slim.
Prospects were non-existent. So I ended up going out with some of the 3rd Platoon homies. They were going out and just doing a presence patrol, and there was a soccer game, and things were starting to get a little. It was supposed to be an Serbian, Kosovar, Albanian soccer game. Trying to mend the fences, and you killed my dad, but we're gonna play soccer, whatever, stuff like that. And these people hold grudges, but it just took 4 American soldiers walking in, and everything settled down. We didn't have to do anything. We didn't have to separate anything. Just our very presence.
Just walking through.
Just walking in. So.
Wow.
Yeah, because that was the esteem and the respect that we had.
And by that point, you guys were pretty much. It was Army, not like the first part of your story where people are partying and having a good time.
No. Yeah. Kosovars don't care that we were National Guard.
Yeah. They just saw 4 Americans in green.
Yeah. Yeah. Because and so there's that. Let's see where we're at. Oh my God, it's Tyler. We can always, up to you. We can do a part 2. Because I haven't even touched Afghanistan, so I've only gotten through half my page.
If that.
I had a long career, man.
Yeah, 36 years. Maybe we should do a part 2, because I stayed up way late last night.
Yeah,
and I don't feel 100% there.
I think that's a winner. You know where to get me.
Okay.
You see me every week.
Absolutely, Joe. Absolutely. I really appreciate you. That was a little backstory. This was last minute of the last minute. I called you, or I messaged you like Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning. Hey, I screwed up and didn't get a guest this week. Can you pitch in for me? So I am forever grateful for you for that. But thank you for sharing your military history, and there's more to go. Afghanistan, I'm sure, has got some wonderful stories there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna disclaimer. I had a great career. I was never, because some people like to inflate what they do. No politics here. I just always want to be very clear. I've never fired a weapon in anger at another human being, and I thank God every day that I never have.
Yeah.
I was shot at once. There is a story there. We'll hold it for the second time, for the part two. Part two. But yeah, I feel very blessed that I got out of the Guard in pretty decent shape. Tinnitus sucks. That's what it is. We'll get into why I retired, but basically too old, too broken.
Yeah. The important distinction is, like, to me, you never fired a shot in anger, you said.
No.
That's the first thing you think of, though. Like, as a civilian, that's the first thing I think of. Military, you fought in war, or, that's what the purpose of the military is. But the military is a big machine.
Absolutely.
And there's many factions of it. Yeah. And it's broken up into many different small pieces, and each piece plays an integral role.
Right.
Napoleon said the army marches on its stomach.
Yeah.
And if you can't feed them, you don't have an army.
Right.
Those people on the front line are sure glad to have a meal when they can get it. Yeah. Same thing with transportation and engineers and
exactly.
radar, and you can go on and on and on. But the thing is like life, there's lessons and opportunities and things to learn from, and that's the distinction that I want to make, is that it may not be glamorous, or it may not be a movie story or a book, but it doesn't matter, because you got something out of it and you gave something to it, equally as important.
Yeah, there's combat arms. You got your infantry, your artillery, your tankers.
Yeah.
The tip of the spear. Then you have combat support. There's like route clearance, which is making sure that infantry unit doesn't roll over a bomb or the tanks or whatever like that. That's what Tyler did. Tyler did route clearance.
Yeah.
In 2009.
That's hairy.
Yes. His war was different than mine.
Absolutely.
And then, so combat support, that's what the engineering is. You need to get over a ravine. You need to get over a river. So we're right there. We are right there in the mix of it. Sometimes we're ahead of them, because that's what tactical bridging is. You run up, you throw down your bridge, all the warfighters roll across, you pick up your bridge, and you start running after them to pass them.
To move to the next ravine, next hill,
gap,
next
to bridge
thing.
the next gap. So, hopefully someone has secured the far bank and the air. The Russian bridge engineers are having a rough time in Ukraine. Anyway, that's a different story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, friends, if you stuck with us this long, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. As always, thank you, Joe. Next time it'll be 6-time Joe. But that's good. That's good. Friends, if you've been following along, please subscribe our YouTube channel. We're trying to hit 50 subscribers. We're almost there. We're real close. We want to do some live video. Maybe hit some bags. Maybe just talk and interact with you on camera, which would be fun. A new experience for us all. We've still got a ways to go there. Also, if you want to give us some support, shout out. We have a store. You can get a sweater like this one here that Joe's got, hats, coffee mugs, pillows, tote bags, all sorts of fun stuff. I have stickers. I did a little fun thing this week, and I'm going to do it again soon. I did a sticker drop where if you I did a reel or a short. I can't remember what it's called. Whatever Instagram calls it, and the little icons, the bubbles up top. If you follow the story, that's what they're called. If you follow the stories, I did a sticker drop, and if you message me when I do one of those with your name and address, I will send you a sticker. But those are only for a limited time. So until I run out of stickers or run out of steam there. But follow that, and we'll get out to you. Also, you can show us some support by going to our website and checking out what we have going on there. All of our contact information and social media links are on that. I think that's it. You have anything else, Joe?
No. Get into martial arts. If you want, why am I in good a shape as I am as I push 60 is one of the better decisions of my life was starting martial arts. And, I'm in better shape. I was better shape at 55 than I was at 45, thanks to this place.
For sure. Better mentally, physically.
Yeah. Some of the stuff it has definitely helped. Help my temper, help my confidence.
For sure.
And just my physical. The VA doctor said I was in incredible shape for a guy my age, which meant, if I was a 20-year-old, I'd be decrepit. But as late 50s, I'm in awesome
That's
shape.
a different story.
It's a different story.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that transformation isn't overnight. It's a long road to hoe. But that's some of my favorite stuff about being here is seeing the change in people and seeing kids, adults, they grow, they change, but they don't see it right away. It takes some time, and it's a wonderful experience to get to see that. I feel incredibly blessed to see that.
Same.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I think that's a great note to end this on.
For sure.
Friends, have a wonderful evening.